Oh hey, it's after hours at Cinemassacre Video, and I'm putting in a little overtime to talk more movies. But first, a word from our sponsor.
It came from the internet. Sleek slabs of magic alloys ritualistically bound together with synthetic fibers by the necromancers at Ridge Wallets. Pack up to 12 cards in a variety of styles and colors, like the sinister burnt titanium. It's to die for. Just ask these other 30,000 lost souls. It even has a lifetime warranty and a 45-day test drive. They have other products too, like the Summit knife with titanium handle. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Crawl on over to ridge.com/Cinemassacre and use code Cinemassacre for 10% off your order.
Have you ever seen a movie where a character dies and you didn't see it coming? Most of the time it's predictable. For example, in a slasher movie, we can usually tell who's gonna die. In an action movie, usually the hero's gonna live and the villain's gonna die or be brought to justice. We're accustomed to these familiar formats, but there comes times when a character who you don't expect is killed off. And that's what I want to talk about today. Just highlight a handful of memorable movie deaths and my thoughts on them. There's going to be spoilers. Once you know of these movie deaths, you can never unknow them. So this is your warning. I've been thinking about doing this video for a long time, but the movie that pushed me to finally do it was Terminator: Dark Fate. This proves the ability to shock is actually pretty easy. The writer has the power to decide the fate of any character, and if they choose to do something unexpected, they run the risk of pissing off the audience. And this is a case of that. I have never felt so pissed off by a death in a movie. And I don't know if this is much of a spoiler because it happens so early in the film, but John Connor is killed off right in the beginning. It is practically the first scene. I mean, when you think back to everything that happened in the first two movies and how tightly wrapped up that story is, this one comes along and gives a big middle finger to T1 and T2. If they allowed John Connor to grow into an adult, kept him as the main character, and then killed him off somewhere later, it might have been better. But the fact they didn't even give him a chance, I mean, I don't recall he even had a single line. I mean, they killed him as a kid, only a few years after the events of T2. But at the same time, I was amazed by the de-aging technology. At first, for a moment, I thought I was watching a cut scene from Terminator 2. Arnold and Edward Furlong, maybe I could tell it was a digital effect, but Linda Hamilton looked exactly like her younger self. And that was the main thought on my mind, was how did they do this? I mean, years ago, if you would have said in the movies, you know, we're gonna have actors being de-aged back to their younger selves and we're gonna bring deceased actors back from the grave, I would have thought you were joking. But we're here. The time is now. The question is, when is a good reason to do it? And I don't mean to get off topic, but the point is, my amazement over this de-aging technique got in the way of my thoughts toward John's death. It was a distraction that left me with conflicted emotions. I was amazed. I mean, I was amazed at the effects, but I was also laughing how much I knew this was going to piss people off by killing John Connor, and I was pissed off myself, but I'm able to step away from my emotions and evaluate it, to debate the reasons. The reason was clearly to send Sarah Connor on a revenge mission. I mean, characters work best when they're pissed off, just like the audience. So maybe you should feel pissed off like she is. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. And that brings me to the next film, which is also very recent. Rambo 5: Last Blood. I would have never imagined we'd see a 70-year-old Rambo who's full of more rage and is more of a dangerous killing machine than ever. I mean, why is that? Well, it's because they killed the young girl who is basically like a daughter to him. And not only do they kill her, they rape her, which is, as a father, is the most horrible thought ever. I mean, she dies about halfway into the film, and I didn't see it coming at all. I mean, I thought that he was going to rescue her and then he'd have to like protect her the rest of the film. I mean, he already had enough motivation, but then she has to die too? I mean, that left Rambo with nothing left except revenge. Was it a good choice for his character? I'm not sure, but it worked for me. I wanted to see him kick some ass after that. Another fairly recent movie is Hereditary. The girl, Charlie, is tragically decapitated early in the film while sticking her head out the window of a car and hitting a telephone pole. The way they handle it is so grim and so real. Like when you hear the mother screaming, it makes me sick. It's such a terrible thought. I mean, the death may have been slightly expected because right before this, she's having a type of allergic reaction causing her throat to swell. So there's already the chance she's not going to make it. But then to have her get decapitated by pure accident, seemingly by pure accident, it was just incredibly incidental and definitely unexpected. Let's look into more classic territory. Night of the Living Dead. I can't think of too many horror films where there's no survivors from the main cast. The only guy who you think is going to make it is Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, and he's killed in a very quick, incidental way, shot through the head, when one person mistakes him for a zombie, and then they drag his body to the fire and never even find out what they've done. And it happens at the very end, just when you thought everything was going to be fine. Having witnessed this character fight for his life the whole time, it could definitely be considered a cheap shot that betrays the audience. However, it's gone down in history as a famous death, a piece of indie counterculture against the mainstream Hollywood films that always had to have happy endings. It was a ballsy move that gets credit for doing the unexpected. Star Trek II. Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, was a character already cemented in the public consciousness for decades, beginning with the TV show. But now they decide to kill him off in a noble way, saving the rest of his crew. By all means, I would say this is a great death scene. However, I feel cheated because he comes back in the next movie. So this might have been great at the time, but personally, I can't look back at Star Trek II and feel any kind of emotional impact because I know he's coming back and there's no rules in Star Trek. Anyone can come back. Another revenge one here is Mad Max. Mel Gibson's character was like the first badass action hero of the modern age. Near the end, the villain kills his family. I did not expect it whatsoever. All that time he spent fighting and trying to protect him, I couldn't believe they died. I mean, they killed a baby. A baby. So naturally, he goes out of his mind and hunts those fuckers down. It's on. I understand why people like the Mad Max sequels the best, mainly the second one, Road Warrior, and the fourth one, Fury Road. It's that desert look with all those cool vehicles. But I think the original, mainly the final act, when he's on that revenge mission, is the best of the whole series. So I'm more of a Mad Max 1 guy, but I understand if people like the sequels. Sometimes it's done for a comedic effect, like in Deep Blue Sea. Samuel L. Jackson's character is given a motivational speech when out of nowhere a shark pops up and kills him. And it's through like a portal in the floor. Like, you wouldn't think there'd be a shark there. I mean, to kill him so suddenly in that moment and interrupt that uphill tone they were going for is brilliant. It's uncalled for and totally hilarious.
Deep Blue Sea! They ate me! A fucking shark ate me! Great bitch!
Sometimes a death can really be a bad idea, like Godzilla 2014. Bryan Cranston was the only good character in the whole movie, and they killed him off in the first act for no good reason whatsoever. Sometimes if you have a good character, especially one who's holding up the entire film, maybe they should stick around. Sometimes the death can be extremely sad, which almost never fails when it's an animal, even an animated animal like Bambi. Bambi was probably the most famous death in a children's movie. Debatably a children's movie. I mean, Bambi's mother is shot and killed, leaving Bambi orphaned. I mean, that's some sad shit. I mean, it set the cliche for future Disney deaths like The Lion King. I Am Legend. Oh boy. You have Will Smith playing a character isolated in an apocalyptic world with his closest friend, his dog, his only friend. And when the dog is infected with the same virus that's turning the rest of the world into zombies, he has no choice but to put his dog down. I mean, that's so sad. I mean, it was one of those times when I thought to myself, that was a good movie, but I'm never watching it again. As a kid, the most memorable movie death was Optimus Prime in Transformers '86. This movie not only killed off our childhood hero, but also wiped out the entire cast of Transformers Season 1 and 2 to replace them all with a new set of characters to sell more toys. Even though it was just robots being killed, that scene of Optimus dying was dragged out long enough, with him giving his final words, the young boy Daniel crying over him, and that music by Vince DiCola. It all made it work. It just pulls those heavy emotions right out of you. I mean, they took it so far, and it was so cruel that you just gotta laugh. At last, I have to mention Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, who was also the master of the unexpected. In Psycho, he kills off the star Janet Leigh about halfway into the film. In 1960, that was unheard of. Supposedly, he had a rule in place in the theaters where audiences weren't allowed to enter the movie late because they'd be wondering, where's Janet Leigh? And quite frankly, it would just ruin it. If you came in the movie late, I mean, come on. Hitchcock definitely helped set a trend where anything can happen. Of course, there's gotta be hundreds more unexpected deaths in cinema. I've only selected some of the ones that stick out to me. The questions for you are, what do you think are the most memorable movie deaths, and which ones do you think are the most unexpected, and when are they justified and when are they not?